Welcome traders. In this video we're going to go over the settings for the new ZoneTraderPro indicator called the ZTP Special Divergence Indicator. The ZTP Special Divergence Indicator is set up to identify market manipulation, and when it identifies market manipulation you're going to see either a no demand or no supply on the chart. The non-divergent setting is for when the indicator becomes non-divergent based on your settings. There are two indicators on this chart. The first is the ZTP Special Divergence Indicator on the patterns chart, and I've also placed the ZTP Cumulative Delta Indicator on the bottom. Now what is really important for you to understand is that settings matter in this setup. To give you some example, with the settings I have here, I went back and I looked at the last 60 days. And in the last 60 days, there was a total of 550 trading indications. And of those 550, 346 were profitable with a profit of at least 2.25 points. The 204 that were not profitable, or 37%, however, don't have that same loss. In a significant number of these trades, such as a trade that you see here, this non-divergence trade you would have only lost a couple of ticks. The same with this trade here and this trade here. So even though we have 37% losses, in most cases we're only losing 2 to 3 ticks when the market becomes non-divergent. Okay, so it's really important that you understand how the indicator works. While you see a either green or red line on this entire zigzag, at the beginning of the zigzag, that's not where you saw a no demand label. Where you saw the no demand label is after the market had moved 2.25 points. And the same when you see the no divergence label. So let's look at these 4 trades in detail. In this first trade right here, I drew a green line at a price of $19.50. That's where you would have received the first no demand label, and then 1 tick later you received the non-divergence label. So in this trade your loss was 1 tick. Here, same story. At a price of $23.75, that's where you received the no demand label, and at a price of $24.25, that's where it became non-divergent and a loss of 2 ticks. For this no demand trade right here, we received the no demand label at the apex right here at 7.25, and for this non-divergence label here, we received the no supply label at 23.25, and then we were told it was non-divergent at 23. So in each of these 3 losses, we had a total of 4 ticks possible as a loss. So it's really important that you understand that you're not receiving the label as it is moving here. You're receiving the label of no demand or no supply once we have created a zigzag and you are at this point where you see the green lines being drawn. And in all of the cases we are taking at least 2.25 points from the trade indication. Now what I want to emphasize here is that settings matter. Even the settings for the data series matter and give a different result. And this is because if a bar were to close sooner before an indicator became non-divergent, then you would not see a signal. So with a 500 tick setting, the settings that I have for the data series are 500 tick, and you need to enable tick replay. To give you some idea how important the settings are, when I previously looked at this indicator, I used a different set of settings and obtained an 83% win rate, but I only had 80 trades. In other words, less than 20% that we had here. And even though you had a higher winning percentage, you would have had a significantly higher dollar win number with the settings that I'm using in this test. The indicator was designed to be used with Bloodhound, as I stated in the introduction video. However, because Bloodhound is not able to pick up these signals at the current time, there's not any way to use Bloodhound to optimize these settings. So literally it is upon the user to go and test different settings to obtain what is the optimal amount and develop a trading plan for using the indicator. In the future, probably about a month or two, you will be able to use Bloodhound and Blackbird in order to optimize a strategy. It's just not available currently. Okay, because settings matter, we'll go over the settings that I used for these results. And in the ZTP Special Divergence Indicator, I have set a minimum filter of 25 and a max filter of 2000, and I've set it to reconstruct the tape. The reset time is not really important here, so it is set for the beginning of the day. The points is the price deviation type, and it is set for 2. When it is set for 2, what that is going to mean is that you're going to get at least 2.25 points when there is a successful trade. And then I've set the deviation contracts to 1. What is important here, I believe that the higher this value is, the higher quality of trade you're going to get. And theoretically the same with this. With this value, I'm not exactly sure if a higher value is necessarily better, or if a lower value such as 10 would result in a better number of trades. In other words, there are some significant variables here in the minimum filter, the price deviation value, and the delta deviation in contracts. So when you go to develop a strategy using this indicator, you're going to have to take all 3 of these into account. Like I said, when Bloodhound and Blackbird are able to pick up these signals, this could be done very easily, and it would become very easy to optimize a strategy. However, because that's not available right now, what you're going to have to do is start with these variables and change them. By changing the contracts to 100, we have 6 wins and 3 losses. If the deviation contracts was set at 1, we had an additional loss. We had 6 wins and 4 losses. With the deviation contracts set at 250, we had just 6 wins and 0 losses. So as you can tell, these numbers do make a difference. If I go and change the minimum filter to 10, we lose one of the wins, and we only have 5 wins. So as you can see, the numbers that you're going to put into this indicator are going to determine what percentage of wins you're going to get. So it would be to your benefit to play around with these and get an optimal setting, because this is just one indicator that I do not have that much of a sufficient experience with to give you a really good set of parameters to use at this time. Your next question is probably going to be, well, why not just use those parameters that you just showed us that had 7 wins and do the entire calculation again? And I pulled it back just to show you that there is no magic number at this time. This is actually work that needs to be done, and it takes about 30 minutes to analyze 60 days worth of trades. So that'll be something that an individual user is going to need to do to decide, what are the optimal settings that you would like to trade. So as you can see in this chart, there were several trades that again had very small losses, even with the 250 tick setting, but we also had several trades that went way beyond 2 points for a loss. However, we did have more winners than we did have losers in this trading day. This software is going to be available on Friday, March 29th, and the only reason it's not being released sooner is that I'm going on a very short trip and will not be available this coming week. So if you are looking for the update, please get a hold of me either on Thursday the 28th or Friday the 29th, and we'll get your software updated to the most current version. I want to thank you for watching this short video, and if you have any questions, please be sure to give me a call. Thanks. Have a good day.